Good evening, welcome to the latest live edition of Last World Boxing. Tonight we're joined by Ander. Good evening, Ander.
Evening, chaps.
And we're also joined by Sean. Good evening, Sean. Cheers for joining.
No worries. Hello, guys.
Good evening. So we'll jump straight into it then. So, Ander, I believe you're going to take us through the Boxer Lightweight tournament that happened at the weekend.
Yeah. Before I go into the tournament and how the fights went, Sean, do you like this concept?
Yes, yeah. I really enjoy when you have prize fighter, and I think this is quite good. The only change I would make is make it more rounds. I don't think three's enough.
But then does it lose a bit of its appeal though, Sean? Where would you put it then, Sean? Because it's meant to be a shootout, isn't it?
Yeah, I think sort of 5, but maybe that could be too many. I just think if you're a slow start, you can't really get going with 3 rounds, and I think 5 gives you more of a chance, really.
There were some fighters in this tournament, weren't there? We'll talk about them in a minute. That don't suit a 3-round fight. But the thing is, they know that going into it. The problem is, if you make it any longer, Sean, then the 2 fighters that end up being in the final are going to be done. And they're going to have nothing left. And then the final ends up being a bore kind of hugging fest, don't it? Yeah, I really like it. I won't want to see it every week. Because I like the strategy of a longer fight, but I really like the concept. I like the idea. The boxer, the prize fighter thing for me got a bit boring because the concept of prize fighter is you're giving that the fighter that's already been up there the last chance, aren't you? Whereas this is all about upcoming fighters, putting them on a main stage, giving them a name, and then the winner gets a contract with Boxer, which is
Prize Fighter wasn't always for them who have been up there, Andy. There was some unearthed talent from Prize Fighter.
There was, Carl, but the winners of these tournaments are mainly the fighters that have got the experience. You know, it ended up being a case of, well, I don't know, someone that's been a European champion that's maybe coming closer to the end of the career. They come back into a tournament with fighters that are maybe, 3 or 4-0 when they're blasting them out of there because they're not quite at that level.
The thing I do like about this Boxer series, and we'll go on to individual fighters, but certain fighters are clearly just going into this tournament to get the profile. Because Ben Shalom went on to say, obviously, A fights is more suited to longer fights. We like the way he looks. He will definitely be featuring moving forward. So there is that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, none of these fighters in this tournament looks out of place. Some of them obviously have better records than others, and that kind of showed in experience on the night. But fighters that were expected to win the tournament necessarily didn't. But let's go through. Did you watch the old card, Sean? Have you seen the old card?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so start off with the first card, and mine and Cole's pick, Otis Luckham, got drawn against a real dangerous fighter in Dillian Chima. Now Dillian, not a massive professional record in boxing, but he was a kickboxing world champion multiple times. So there's obviously a lot of experience there. I don't know about you, Cole, but I thought this fight was stopped way too soon.
Yeah, it smelt a bit fishy to me. I'll be honest with you, because obviously I'll go there. With him being the hometown fighter, it felt very, very premature that stoppage did. Bearing in mind, Luckham buzzed him just before that.
He did, yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't like that stoppage, no.
No, I'm of the same opinion as you. Otis came out really quickly. He did land some real tough shots, and to Chima's credit, he took them. I don't think that first knockdown was that was a flash knockdown. I don't think Otis was hurt. I think he took him by surprise. I don't think he was hurt, and then he got rocked by a couple of shots, fell back onto the ropes, but he wasn't not defending himself. He wasn't out. Very, very premature for me. And again, I kind of echo what you're saying, Carl, that maybe the referee was listening a bit too much to what the crowd were doing. Because obviously, Chima being a local lad, he had the lion's share of support, didn't he?
Yeah, I
did
didn't
you see
like.
it?
I didn't
How
like
did
it.
you see it, Sean?
Yeah, I agree with what you both said. I think, especially because it's a competition, and as you say, the goal is to win a contract. I think they should have given the benefit of the doubt in the fight. I thought he was doing well in the fight up until then as well. So I definitely think he can feel sort of hard done by, and maybe not given the best of chances in it. Really.
What I couldn't understand was the whole concept of the tournament is 3 rounds to shoot out. So why is the ref jumping in at the first stage of someone looking like they buzzed? He's not going 12 rounds.
No.
You know, he's very, very strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to find out. Oh, yeah, it is what it is. It's over and done with now.
Put it in the British Boxing Board of Control vault. It's getting bigger and bigger.
It is, isn't it? And obviously that puts a dent on Otis's record that shouldn't be there, in my opinion. Now, you're never going to know how the fight would have panned out. The fact of the matter is, though, Dillian Whyte goes on to win the tournament, as we'll talk about.
It may have done Otis a bit of a favour though, because there was signs of inexperience there, wasn't there? There was things he could have done differently. So
maybe he rushed his work a little bit, but he's had one professional fight.
Yeah, it won't define him. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, of course it won't. Of course it won't. And he'll come back bigger and stronger from that. I have no doubt about it. So the next fight on the night was interesting because it was 2 fighters from the same camp. Tion Gibbs, who was the red hot favourite, against Scott Melvin. Now, Tion Gibbs' brother, as you probably saw on the night, he'd actually won the last boxer tournament at the super lightweight division.
They might have mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah, so Tion was obviously our favourite because of it. But what a great fight this was.
I don't understand how they make him favourite on the back of his brother, though.
No, it wasn't off the back of his brother. It's off the back of his record.
There's nothing in his record to suggest that, though. I'm not sure where they came to that conclusion, to be honest.
No, but he had a really good pedigree from the amateurs, mate. So they're taking that into consideration as well. But obviously, because he got drawn against his stablemate, this ended up being a really close fight. One of the best fights of the tournament, in my opinion. And I believe the right verdict. What I like about this whole concept is the first 2 fights are completely different, opposite ends of the spectrum. One's a shootout, that maybe ends too quickly, and this one was pure boxing, but fantastic. Again, Sean, do you think it was the right result? Do you think the judges got the decision right?
Yeah, I do, and I think all the way through the fight, you could tell that they really knew each other in the ring, and you could tell sort of how the styles would gel. And I think for me, which was good to see, they both sort of took it well after as well. I mean, easily they could have fell out or whatnot, but I think it was all done in the right spirit, and the right guy won.
Yeah. Did you see that same way then, Carl?
Yeah, I quite like Melvin. I think he's got a bit of talent behind him there. I think he's got a few more levels in him. So yeah, it's a good fight. Mutual respect at the end. Back to the gym they go, don't they?
Yeah, and it was all taken in really good spirits as well. Maybe this was Scott Melvin's kind of breakout in a way, because I bet he's been under the shadow of the Gibbs lads in that gym. So yeah, maybe this is his little bit of respect in that. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have had it before, but more so than he perhaps had before the fight.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the third quarterfinal. Another one of the favourites, Ryland Charlton against the second Nottingham lad, Joe Underwood Hughes. This was a real clash of styles. Again, brilliant for the tournament because you saw 2 completely different fighters. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Sean. Our 3 rounds suits certain fighters, i.e. Ryland Charlton. Ryland's obviously this come forward fighter that throws bombs and don't stop. And then you've got Joe Underwood Hughes who's trying to pick him off on the back foot and doing a really good job, but very difficult to keep someone of Ryland's aggression off early on in the fight, isn't it?
I think he outclassed Ryland Charlton. I think Underwood Hughes won that fight.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I think he got robbed. And call me partisan, call me biased because he's from Nottingham. But you know, I thought he won the fight.
The problem is obviously being a three round fight. If this had gone 8 rounds, 7 rounds, 6 rounds, Joe Hughes would have taken over in the fight.
I thought Joe Hughes had a ropey first round, but I thought he won the second and third. Is my honest opinion.
The thing is though, it's with a lot of these things. It's what you like, and these referees clearly like the aggression of Charlton, and that's what won the fight, isn't it? He just won the fight on his aggression. I agree with you though, Carl. I think Hughes was picking him off, even though he spent a lot of time on the ropes, which probably didn't help on the scoring. He was picking Charlton off coming in, and considering the pressure Charlton put him under, a lot of fighters would have crumbled, and he didn't. He kept his head. He stayed very calm.
It's very raw. It's very raw, Charlton, though, isn't it? Yeah. And a lot of his shots hit the elbows and hit the gloves, and I think that might have fooled the judges on the night because he had very little clean work.
A lot of respect to Joe Hughes' coach Scott Callow kept him very calm, was saying the right things in the corner. I think he's got a bright future. Joe Hughes. Ryan Charlton's never going to change. He's always going to be the type of fighter that just pumps forward and throws bombs.
He's limited, isn't he? Let's be honest.
He's not a boxer. He's just pure aggression. And if you like that, I like that style of fighter. But you've also got to be able to box. You can't just put your head down and swing and hope that one big bomb lands. That's not going to work in longer fights. And it's shown in a couple of the fights where he's come across somebody that can take a shot and then puts it back on him. So it is what it is. So Ryan Charlton moves on. And the last of the quarters was Sean Cooper against Brooklyn Tilly. So Brooklyn, if I think I'm right in saying this, was a wild card picked by the fans for the tournament. Coming with a decent reputation. Again, I think Sean Cooper was really good in this fight and deserved the win. Did you see it the same way, Sean?
Yeah, I did. I thought he was the classier boxer of the two, and he sort of showed his skill set to get him the win.
Okay, so that you then move on to the semi-final. Dylan Chima against Scott Melvin and Ryan Charlton against Sean Cooper. Talk about the Chima fight first. Again, went to points. Chima gets the verdict. Do you see that the right way, Carl?
Probably just. I thought
Melvin grew into the tournament, didn't he?
He did.
The thing that's a bit unfortunate in these tournaments is the draw. So Chima goes obviously first out, which means he's got the longest rest, and he's in against Scott Melvin, who's second on the bill. So he's had a fairly decent rest as well. But with Chima only going half of the first round, he's barely warmed up. Whereas,
I thought Melvin looked like he'd had his cup final the fight before. I thought it was after the Lord Mayor's show. To be honest, I think he put a lot into that first fight.
Difficult when you got a fight against your stablemate. There's obviously going to be a massive high, isn't there, when he goes back to the changing room, and then he's got to try and get himself back up. And I don't think he really did. Ryland Charlton against Sean Cooper. Nothing changed. Ryland just came out swinging again, and then got the stoppage, didn't he? Was it the third round?
Yeah.
So then you move on to a final where Ryland Charlton had about 5 seconds rest, or what seemed like about 5 seconds rest, and Chima's obviously got much longer. Ryland Charlton was done, mate, after the end of the semi-final. He had nothing left. Do I think he would have won the fight anyway? No, I don't, because I thought Chima grew into. I think Chima was great in the final and the semi. I think he grew into the tournament. He could have crumbled. The amount of people that were there, and the expectation on his shoulders, it could have took him the opposite way, but he didn't do so. He showed his class a little bit. Do you see any of these guys? Sorry, Cole.
That's what this is all about, isn't it? Unearthing talent. You know,
Of course it
Team,
is.
Team is now going to get a boxer contract, be on Sky. He'll get a platform to prove how good he is. So,
Do you see of the 8 guys that are in the tournament, mate? Do you see any of them currently? Very difficult to say, I know, but do you see any of them going on to become big stars, winning world titles, winning European titles, maybe?
I think world titles might be a bit of a stretch. Because no one absolutely blew me away. But it's very early in the career, so it's very difficult. However, without being biased again, I thought Underwood Hughes come out of it very well. Obviously he caught Ben Shalom's eye. So you'd have to say, with the great following that is Nottingham folk give people, I'd like to see him go on, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 of these guys get put on shows on Boxer main cards now, and are given opportunities, because I know Chima won the contract. He's going to probably get a bit more focus than the others to begin with, but these are all going to go back and fight on the usual cards that the small old show cards that they're on. But I would say that you're going to get at least 2 or 3 of these fighters are going to end up fighting on Sky in the near future, because there's some talent there. Evening, Matt.
Good evening. You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. So we're just running through the Boxer Lightweight tournament. I've asked Sean this already. Do you like the concept?
Yeah, it's obvious. It's a bit of a rehash of Matchroom's Prize Fighter. But I sort of caught what you were saying earlier about it being different now in terms of the opportunities it gives fighters. It did help a couple of fighters when it was Prize Fighter. You think of, like, I think Rocky Fielding won it, and like Martin Rogan and people like that. So, but this is, I think the prize is greater, and I think it's something that Boxer may have to sort of rely on to sort of unearth their stars. Do you know what I mean? It's about people taking their chance. We've spoken on here about them having to build a stable. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a tool that could potentially work for them. I quite liked. I didn't see the whole card. I saw the back end of one of the semis, and then Chima's and the final. I thought. Look, we talked about the other week about undercards need to be more entertaining, sort of thing. Actually, these types of fighters with that opportunity give you the types of entertaining fights that Joe Public would want to see. And you can't argue with the value you can't argue with the show they're stuck on, because you got a great mix of boxing ability from Chima. I thought he was really good in the final. He punched inside chart and quite cleverly. You knew what he was going to get. He was prepared to, stick and trade and move, and then get on his bike and then engage again. From Charlton, you got like that's what the casual fan that you keep talking about. That's the sort of action they want to see, and I'm all for these guys getting these opportunities. So what? They're not household names. They're not household names yet. Why can't they be? Why can't they be potentially? Why can't they be going forward? So yeah, I like it in this. I look forward to seeing the next one. You've got to remember that there's always going to be a couple of duds in there, in terms of there'll be no knockouts in the evening, sort of thing, and that happened in Prize Fighter. So you take the rough with the smooth. I thought it was the bits I saw. I thought was it was really good.
I'd like to see him go high up in the weights, Max. As a rule, the higher you go, you're almost guaranteed a knockout at some stage, aren't you? Let's be honest.
Yeah. But the next one's cruiserweights, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I think 4 times a year feels about right. 1 a quarter. That feels about right.
Yeah, because Boxer have only got a couple of shows, haven't they? This month or in this sort of period, and they're both Boxer tournaments. So, enjoyed it.
Great stuff. Moving on. Topic number 2, Carl.
Okay. So, Conor Benn and the DAZN card. So, Andy will take you through the card as he normally does, finishing with what I think is a predictable Conor Benn. So Andy, over to you.
Okay, so you know the funniest thing about that, before Carl even started talking, you two were laughing. So let's start.
Part of the year contender.
Let's start from the first fight on the live show. Jack Cullen coming off a loss, an heavy loss as well, against Sajo for that European title fight, his last time out. Are we seeing anything different from Cullen? Did he show some nuts? The fact that, you know, he came out, he didn't change his style, he didn't look gun shy, got the result. Matt, I'll start with you. Do you think this is as far as Jack Cullen goes?
I'll be honest, I can't pass too much comment. I've seen him fight a couple of times. I think, I don't mind his style, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, he probably could be a bit more clever with it and use his attributes, sort of thing. But I mean, difficult one for me because I've only seen him box a couple of times.
Right.
And yeah, Saturday was one of them. I think knowing the defeat he had and coming off of that, like sometimes you can have a different coach, you can have a different approach, and you'll always end up going back to what you know, sort of thing. I think maybe he's one of them where he's always going to sort of end up engaging, and he's always going to, as for the level he's at, I can't pass too much comment. I probably need to see a bit more of him.
Sean?
Yeah, I think what we saw was sort of Jack Cullen in a nutshell, really. I don't think he's going to change his style. I think as for the level, as we see when he stepped up, he got beat. I think the sort of higher end domestic level is where he's at, and I think that's where he'll stay.
Do you think he doesn't carry enough power to stop these, to keep the better level fighters off? Is that his problem, or is it that his ring craft isn't good enough?
I would say it's a bit of both. I mean, he's never going to sort of outbox you like a Billy Joe Saunders, and he's just going to always be a sort of come forward fighter. And I think he sort of found his level in that regard.
Right. Okay, moving on. Alicia Baumgarten against Edis Soldad. I was very surprised how low down the card this fight was. It was WBC World Super Featherweight title. Obviously, last time out, she beat Terry Harper with that frightening knockout. I think Alicia Baumgarten is one of the best female fighters in the world, and she's not being given credit. She was absolutely outstanding. A ring craft, a boxing ability, a punch selection, just brilliant. I'm just really, really disappointed how low down the card she was. In my opinion, she should have been main
Chief support.
Yeah, sorry, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Chief support. Yeah, she should have been. And
I'd
being second on the card and having.
I'd actually agree with that.
Well, being second on the card and having Conor, but having Campbell Atten above you on the card, it's just not right, mate.
I'd have put her before Billiam Smith. That's where I'd have put it.
Oh yeah, maybe. There's an argument there. I'll give you that. But she certainly deserved to be higher up on the card than Campbell Atten, surely.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. I think she's. I'd only seen her the Terry Harper fight and then the performance she put in on Saturday. She looks classy. Again, sort of like said on here about female fighters that carry an amateur style and female fighters that box like pros, and she looks like a good pro to me.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
The thing I like is she can bang. She proved she can bang against Terry Harper, but Saturday night she boxed.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed. I also think there's more gears to her. You know, so yeah, I think she could be the next big star of female boxing.
Well, there's another really good fighter in that division, in Michaela Mayer, who currently holds the IBF and the WBO. What a fight that'd be!
She beats her for me.
I agree with you, mate. I think she does as well, but it's still a good fight. Michaela Mayer's no bum. That's and it'll happen as well because these female fighters aren't scared to go in with each other. You know, you don't seem to have the politics with that you have with the male counterparts. Sean, where do you see Alicia Baumgarten up with the best in the females fighters in the world at the moment?
I think she's certainly up there. It's a shame she's not hardly mentioned among the Katie Taylors. Maybe she's not proved it yet. But I think if she beats Michaela Meyer and is it Choi, the other champion? I think she'll certainly be up there when she finishes her career with those sort of names.
I thought it was interesting that she was back over here boxing. I get that she's obviously beaten Terry Harper and that's how people will know her. But I thought it was an interesting move to bring her back to the UK fighting.
Wouldn't you say it's where the money is, though, Matt?
Yeah, potentially. I think
Matt, Eddie Hearn tends to do this. If he's got one of his fighters and they get beat by somebody from abroad, he tends to give that fighter 1 or 2 fight deal. I think he'll have jumped all over Baumgarten after that fight.
Oh, I get that. It's putting her on in the UK as opposed to sort of I don't know where she's from in the States, but as opposed to putting her on a card in the States.
Yeah.
If you think she's that good sort of thing, why couldn't she have boxed in a couple of weeks at the Garden?
The challenge is though, Matt. Let's be honest. We've said it many times about American boxing fans. They don't build fan bases like we do over here, do they?
No,
you don't come out for the fighters, do they? As a rule.
No, yeah, agreed. But I think she would find it hard to build a fan base over here. I think boxing fans would appreciate her style and the way she boxes and the way she fights.
Ebony Bridges has achieved it.
Yeah, she has, but people like Ebony Bridges. I think the way that Baumgarten sort of talks is, I don't know. I don't think British fans would warm to her as much.
I think you make a really good point. Why was she not on? I never thought about this. Why is she not on the massive card next week in the Garden? Obviously, Eddie Hearn's got a big say in that card. I don't think he's the sole promoter, but he's got a massive say in the card. You're right. Why is she not on that when she's an American? Very strange, I suppose. If you look at it like that, maybe he was wanting to booster this or bolster this card up.
Maybe the timing just didn't work.
It's one of the things that they've got at their disposal is they've got so many shows going on around the world, and DAZN is a worldwide broadcaster. It does mean that it should be to find fights for fighters. You should be able to get your fighters out, quite regularly and get them on TV, sort of thing. So I guess from a viewer's point of view and a fan's point of view, it is a different way of watching how fighters get built.
I think there's no doubt though, if the Michaela Mayer fight gets made, that's definitely going to be an American show. That
means Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn actually sitting down and doing a deal, so that'll be interesting.
Well, I don't think Eddie Hearn's got a massive contract with Baumgarten.
Maybe not.
So I don't think it'll be a problem, mate. I really don't. Just picking up a couple of comments in the sidebar from Niall O'Connor. Evening, mate. Campbell Hatton should be first fight of the night. He's just picking up on what we said earlier on about Campbell Hatton being above Baumgartner. And his second comment, Katie Taylor is the GOAT. She will always be number one. Katie has her own level. Do you agree with that?
Well, you can't fault. It depends who you're asking, but I'll jump in. You can't. I've always said Katie Taylor's been a trailblazer for female boxing. Just took the purses to where they are. I give Katie Taylor a lot of props, to be honest with you. If anyone does overtake her in female boxing, it's due to Katie Taylor paving the way.
Do you think she's dropping a couple of levels now, though, Carl? She seems to be getting it a bit more than she has done.
Yeah, I have said that on previous videos, so I will stand by that. I do think on the slide might be a bit strong, but I do think she's shipping a few more shots than she used to. But what she's achieved in the sport is second to none. We'll soon find out against Serrano, because you could argue that's her biggest test. So
yeah, without a doubt. And obviously that's going to be the topic for next week's show, Niall. So join us again next week, and you can have your say, fella. Okay, so next fight on the bill, and this kind of goes in quite well with what Niall's just said. Campbell Hatton out again. They're obviously trying to really push him. He's high up on the card. Did you see any improvement here, Sean?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, I did his previous fight before this one. I think it was in Spain, wasn't it, when he knocked the guy out? But I don't know if it was because he was back in Manchester. He put pressure on himself. But it's hard to see how he will improve when he's put in these sort of situations. I don't think he's ready yet.
Matt?
No, I actually thought in terms of a performance, I thought it was a little bit of a step back. I agree with Sean. I think he looked over eager more than anything. He definitely looked, look, he got the rounds in. I've said before, for me, it's about him actually just getting as much experience as possible, as quickly as possible, to be able to progress. I also agree that I think it was a better idea to be able to just sort of take him off. Like we saying a few minutes earlier, like you've got all these various fights sort of taking place around the world and everything. Like get him out boxing somewhere, get him back on a couple of Spanish cards or an Italian card or low down.
You needed Hatton on that card though, because Conor Benn can't sell tickets.
Well, you only had to look at the arena sort of thing to see that. So you get it from a ticket selling point of view. I must admit, when I heard that he was being trained, but that Matt Hatton was going to train him, Matthew Hatton started out the same in terms of he was trying to sort of be too much a bit like Ricky and blow people away and everything like that. And it wasn't until he sort of he evolved a bit, became more of a box fighter. That's when he had his best days, like when he picked up his European title. And I was kind of hoping to see Matthew Hatton's influence a bit more, but maybe that take a little bit more time or something. He needs to just sort of settle down. I think he could, if he just keeps trying to walk through people, he's gonna walk onto one. And yeah, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see sort of Matthew Hatton's his own boxing style. See that influence in Campbell. But
I think it was nice to see that he wasn't rushing his work as much as he has done in his previous fights. He's learnt there. He paced himself much better. I mean, I remember his pro fight. He was blown after 2 rounds. So he's pacing himself a lot better. I'm a little bit nervous that he gets caught way, way, way too much.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to keep him at this level until he learns not to get caught too much, because even if they move him up, because at the minute he's not even fighting at English level, in my opinion. So you move him up to an English level fighter and he gets beat because they're real tough. These small old shows are no joke. These English, Midlands English, or wherever you are, Southern titles, they're no joke, these fighters. And he'd struggle against them right now. It's a long process for me. It's going to take, and I know Cole's going to hate me for saying this. It's going to take 10 or 15 fights before you can even move him up the levels, because he's just not there. On that note, Cole, I'll let you jump in. What's your opinion?
Well, it could just be that Campbell Hatton hasn't got it.
Potentially, yeah.
So it could be just a case that it don't matter how many fights you're going to give him, he just hasn't got the ability. So, because he spent a lot of time behind closed doors now with Matthew Hatton. I'm imagining he would have been getting the best sparring possible. And you could argue that we're not seeing much advancement. He's at a very, very basic level at the minute in terms of opponent. And it worries me. I hope I'm wrong that he's still not showing signs of progression. Not to the degree that we'd expect. He's got the best of the best in everything he's got. So it worries me. I hope I'm wrong, but I'd expect to have seen more progression by now.
How old is he again? Early, is he even 21?
He's young, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, provided he doesn't get injured. I mean, Eddie Hearn used to do with fighters is he'd get them out 6, 7, times a year sort of thing. He absolutely needs that. And as long as he stays fit, doesn't get any cuts or anything like that, there's no reason why he can't have, sort of show that progression, have that progression. I think I'll be a bit more. I'll be a bit leaner and sort of say, let's have a look in maybe 3 or 4 fights sort of thing, because there actually is. I understand the clamour around him because of his name, but there actually isn't a need to rush him. I know you want to put him in with live opponents and everything like that. I get that, but there will be a point where, if he's going to be boxing on a DAZN card sort of thing, he is going to need to he is going to want to be in meaningful fights. Otherwise, you're probably getting into a scenario to what we're probably going to talk about in a minute about Conor Benn. So,
yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? There's going to be a clamour at some point or another where fans are not going to have it, and they're going to want to see at least an English level or at least a British level fight. He's nowhere near that at the minute, and in my opinion, and this is going to go against the grade, he shouldn't be trained by his uncle. He shouldn't have his dad overlooking him as his manager. That's going to hold him back, because he's always going to be in their shadows, because they were great fighters. Anyway, moving on. So, chief support, Chris Billam-Smith, Tommy McCarthy. I was expecting an absolute barnstormer of a fight like the first one, and in my opinion, Tommy McCarthy didn't turn up. I don't know if
I think that's a bit harsh. I enjoyed the fight, I'll be honest.
Tommy McCarthy didn't have anything, mate. His legs weren't there. His boxing ability wasn't there. Chris Billam-Smith looked like he was struggling second half the fight. He was blowing, in my opinion. And if Tommy McCarthy had anything about him and showed the ability he's got, because he's a good fighter, he could have taken advantage of that, but he didn't have anything left.
I think this is a typical example of 2 boxers who are probably at the level they belong to be at. They're not going to go no higher, including Chris Billam-Smith. So that's why I think it was a good fight. Very similar ability. And really, I think them two is a toss of a coin. I know Billam-Smith's done him twice, but, you know, I just think neither of them are going any higher. Neither. So I just thought, competitive fight for as long as it lasted, in my view. But I think Billam-Smith just came on a bit stronger down, obviously in and around 6, 7, 8.
Yeah. Sean, how did you see it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good fight while it lasted. I think I don't think I'm wrong in saying this. I think what they're doing with Billam-Smith now is almost having shadowing a Coley, in terms of this time next year they'll announce a fight for him to fight for the vacant WBO in Bournemouth. I think that's what they're going to do. Whether he wins it or not, I don't know, but I think that's their plans with him.
Matt, how do you see it?
Yeah, I enjoyed the fight. I was surprised. I was a little bit surprised Billam-Smith got the stoppage as early as he did. I wasn't expecting that. I think
You can't be quick though, Matt, didn't I?
Yeah, I must admit I agree with Andy on this. Something didn't look quite right to me. I wasn't. I genuinely. I was looking forward to the fight. I thought it was a decent fight. I think Billam-Smith is. He's just got. I think he's got a bit of bloody-mindedness about him and stuff. I think talent-wise, I agree. I don't think wise he's going to go beyond sort of European level. I don't, unless you can sort of, you know, sort of not manipulate the rankings, but you know what I mean, navigate the rankings in such a way to, you know, to Sean's point, sort of thing. But I think Billam-Smith is. I think there's a steel there, sort of thing, that can't be underestimated with him. And I don't think he wins a world title, Carl. I agree with you, mate. I think he is probably, yeah, at the top level he can get. So
obviously there's been fighters already. Richard Riakporhe has been in with both of these guys and beaten both. Now, Richard Riakporhe has obviously moved on. He's now on Boxer. Are these guys going to cross paths again at some point? You know, because obviously the way they're angling it, I agree with Sean. They're angling Billiam Smith for a world title shot at some point or another, but they're not going to put him in with anyone real dangerous. They're going to wait until there's a vacant title, I'm sure.
Sounds familiar.
Are they going to try and stay away from Riakporhe because of what he's done to Billiam Smith already, or can you see that fight happening down the line?
I think I thought it was interesting with Riakporhe that they went the WBC route. I thought that was a play from their part to sort of, stay away from sort of a Coley. Like, I don't think they'd try and chase a ranking with a WBO. So I thought it was interesting that Boxer took him in that direction.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because they didn't want to fight a Coley, but more so because the way of trying to get the fight made.
The Coley's going to move up anyway, though, Matt, into so play the long game and he'll be gone anyway.
Yeah, he will do. Riakporhe for me. You say it about Bivol, Carl. You think he performs to the level of the opponent in front of him. I think Riakporhe's in that category as well. I think there's more to see from Riakporhe, I really do. But I think it needs an opponent in front of him to. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I think Riakporhe is probably the cream of the crop. I'd love to see a fight between him and a Coley. I really would. But I think
picking up a comment in the sidebar, guys, from Joe. McCarthy did well first couple of rounds, but looked like he'd had enough when Chris Billiam Smith put it on him. Yeah, I pretty much see it the same way. I don't think McCarthy looked fleshy to me. He didn't look like he was in tip-top shape. I know he's not. He's never been the sort of fighter that's cut, when he goes in the ring. But even so, he looked like he was carrying, a few flabby pounds rather than being as toned. Perhaps his camp hasn't gone the way he wanted it to. I suppose we're never going to find out. These things often just stay in camp, don't they? He certainly didn't have the same punch resistance as he had in the first fight. That goes without saying because of the way the fight ended. And very disappointing, Cole touched on this, that he looked like he quit. He shook his head, didn't want any more of it. And he could have easily got up. He was buzzed, but he wasn't out. Watch this space, I guess, in that division. One of the poorer divisions in boxing, in my opinion. Moving on to Cole's favourite fighter, Conor Benn against Chris Van Erden. And we'll start with you, Cole, seeing as though you love him so much.
I don't know where you got it from, mate. I actually do like Conor Benn. However, I just want him to jump in with a live opponent because, yet again, did we learn anything new about Conor on Saturday? No. You talk about letting Conor Benn off the leash to use Eddie Hearn's language, and then you start talking about Kell Brook. You won't talk about David Evanesian because he's not a ticket seller. Then they bring Van Heeden over. They then bring Amir Khan into the ring and start talking about a potential future fight. Come on, answers on a postcard. Is this guy going to jump in with someone or what? Or is he just going to tread water until there's a vacant title in that weight division? Not Connor's fault. I just blame the people that are advising him. Because if you're not careful, the British boxing public are going to turn off from Conor Benn. I'd like to know how many tickets he actually sold for Manchester. Bearing in mind a couple of under fight, Rick Campbell-Hatton and such like was there. So, yeah, let's get someone to the O2, a big name to the O2. McKinson, I quite like that fight. But God, he needs to get in with a credible opponent.
Niles just put a comment in the sidebar. He'll fight anyone, in my opinion. I agree with you, Niall, that I think Conor Benn, if it was just down to him, would fight anybody. He's just got that mentality. But the problem is, he's listening to his promotion team. And they're saying, we don't want to take you down that route. We want to take you down this route.
And Eddie Hearn's obviously come out and talked about Evanesian so much in the last few days. He's obviously aware that the British boxing public are circling. Neil Marsh has come out. Neil Marsh is due on the channel in a few weeks. Neil Marsh has come out and defended what Eddie Hearn said about not a ticket seller, blah, blah, blah. So slowly, but Eddie Hearn's still saying Evanesian isn't his first choice and started reeling off a few names. Yeah, I mean, Andy, I know you're a Conor Benn fan, but he's got to jump in, hasn't
Yeah, he has. I am a fan, mate. I like what I like about Conor Benn is I like his style. I like is I've said it a few times. He's the sort of fighter that gets you on the edge of your seat in the fact that he goes in, he's all action, and there's always a chance he's going to get knocked out rather than the opponent because that's his style. Just like his dad. I loved Nigel Benn, was one of my favourite fighters of all time for that reason. You never know what's coming, and the higher level he goes up, the more anticipation you're going to get for that to happen.
It's got to be Broner, Danny Garcia, people of that ilk.
He's definitely
Don't talk to me about Joe Brook.
He definitely needs to step up levels. Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, is not helping the situation by putting a video out. I don't know if you saw this, guys. Before that fight, there was a video put out where there was just him and Conor Benn sat at a table.
Yeah, it's cringy.
Eddie Hearn turned around and said, "You've smashed British level. You've smashed European level. You know, you're knocking on the door for world level." That's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous comment. And what does that put in Ben's head? What does that, where does Ben actually think in his own head? Where does he think he is at levels? Matt,
I'd seen a couple of clips on Twitter of that Eddie Hearn Conor Benn discussion. Hearn actually, I didn't know that was said. Hearn actually contradicted himself straight after because he said, "Let's find out who the best is in Britain," when he was mentioning Kell Brook's name. And I thought it was just as cringeworthy that Amir Khan was even in the ring with him. It was, do you know what I mean? Like it all just really stank, to be honest with you. I agree. I think Conor Benn fights anybody, anywhere, anytime. I think he's better than he's had the opportunity to show. Do you think, Carl? Do you actually think Broner's a decent opponent for him now?
Well, I'm being painted as a bit of a pantomime villain here, but if you want to look back over the videos, I've never once said that I don't rate Conor Benn. What I've gone on to say is, no, this isn't aimed at you, Matt. I'm just clarifying. What I've said is I'm frustrated that he's not being thrown in with a live opponent. So go back and watch the videos. I think Conor Benn's a good fighter. Do I think he's world class? Probably not. And do I think that he wins a title when Andy predicted that he keeps pushing back? Probably next Christmas now, but it was next April. Probably not. So I think Broner, at least, Matt, ask him a few questions. That's all I ask in a fight. Someone who's going to give him a few problems. So Broner, Danny Garcia, Evanesian, they're the sort of people I want to see him in with. I definitely don't want to see him in with a Kell Brook. What does a lad? I feel for Conor Benn because he could smash Kell Brook around the ring and knock him out in round one, and he comes out that ring with still no more credibility.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's where my frustration comes from.
I don't think I just disagree on the Broner thing. I don't actually think Broner would be the step up that we probably want to see.
It's going to cost a lot of money. If you talk about getting him over here, it's going to cost a lot of money to bring him over. Yeah,
you never know. He might get thrown in prison halfway through a training camp or something like that. I think he's a liability these days. So, the Broner thing would sell because everybody hates Broner and everybody would want to see Ben punch his head in. But I think the Mikey Garcia fight, that'd be, love to see that.
Sean, just before I come to you, mate, let me pick the comments up in the sideboard. Joe's put, I disagree. Ben can demand his team make him a proper fight. That's a good point. Nilo Connor, Broner is a great fight for Matchroom. Interesting that you've put Matchroom and not Ben there, Niall. I see where you're coming from. Joe's put, they had Kelly and Ava over at Matchroom. The opportunity to make them fights was there. Niall O'Connor, Broner will sell a lot and bring a lot of eyes in the US. I reckon he's a better chance of beating him than Avanesian. I think we're all singing off the same hymn sheet. The Broner fight's a name. But that's exactly what Conor Benn's doing at the minute. He's fighting fighters that have been champions or have fought champions, but are now past the best, and that's exactly what Broner is, surely. Sean, where do you think? What level, do you think Conor Benn is currently at?
I would say he's at fringe world level at the moment.
What gives you that opinion when he's not fought anyone that's fringe world level?
I just think European level does nothing for him. What level would you class him at right now?
Well, he's not beat the British level champion in Echo Escherman. Why not make that fight? He's not beat the European champion in David Amanisin. Why not make that fight? Not that long back, he was shouting out Josh Kelly, but obviously Amanisin did a number on him, so that fight never happened. But Josh Kelly's now back. Why not make that fight? It's okay saying I want world level fighters. What? I mean, I'm a massive Ben fan, as Cole's already said. But you've got to take him at levels. You've got to move him at stages. You've got to put him in against the best at that level. He's not fought the best at British level because he didn't go that route. He's not fought the best at European level because he didn't go that route. He's only fought past the best fringe world level fighters. But the point is, past the best. It's okay blowing him up and giving him name. If you stick him in with somebody that's world level now or fringe world level, he gets beat. What does that do for the lad? What does that do for his confidence? Then he has to rebuild and he goes back, ends up fighting a British level fighter to build his confidence back up. Why not do that in the first place?
I think to a certain extent they're sort of using his name rather than the traditional route or British Commonwealth, European. I think for him, he's almost, as he's a Ben, obviously the big name in boxing. I think how Matchroom are using him and how I see them going, they're almost sort of saying he's bigger than these belts. So they're not going to risk him losing at that level. They'll rather him beat the Van Heerdens as well, the Algeries, then put him in with a Furman, for example. If he beats them, okay, you could generally say he's fringe world level. I think you've got to take the rough with the smooth with these certain fights for him. I doubt many people know who he is, but old Cody from Canada, he would actually be a really good fight for him next.
Yeah, but Sean, I told you on Twitter, Sean. They're talking about not having Ebenezer because he's not a big enough name or ticket seller. Why would you then throw him in with that Cody geezer who no one knows?
The zone mainly. Canada, that's a massive market for them. I believe Cody's fought all his fights on the zone. Take Ben to America next, really. I mean, if you don't want him to fight Abanesian or anyone like that, I see Chris Mannix wants him in America. Why not fight this Cody in America? I mean, I get that it's not what we want, but for Conor Benn, if he's not going to fight domestic fighters, European fighters, at least put him in with someone who will test him and we can generally see where he is.
This is obviously gaining real interest in the sidebar. Let me just pick a few of the comments up. Joe's put what, and I think that's to your comment, Sean, of him being world level or fringe world level.
No, it wasn't. It came up roughly when you talked about him fighting Esserman or Ebenezer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that then? So Cedric Ben's put Broner dropped Sean Porter late in the fight. I think that's a good fight for Ben right now. Niall O'Connor, he still is very young, lads. They see what happened with him and Pinal and just don't want it to happen again and make the same mistake. At some point, he's got to go in and throw the dice, though, surely, Niall.
Well, where's this trajectory that Andy keeps talking about? I'll try and get the right angle, Andy, because I know it's been that steep of an improvement. Well, surely if it's improved that much, that wouldn't happen again.
No, you're right there, mate. I do stand by that. He's come on massively since his pro days, original fight days. He's come on massively and improved loads. Sports Mode UK. Any of the top three welterweights in Britain beat Ben, in my opinion. Interesting comment. I'll come to you in a minute, Matt, to find out what level you think is at. Less liability call. Ava is dangerous. That's from Niall O'Connor.
It looks like
Joe's point he was about the fringe world level comment.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got Sean's opinion, Matt. Where do you think? What level do you think Conor Benn is at realistically?
I think he's. I get your point in terms of without having the CV to back it up, it's actually quite difficult to actually to say it.
Yeah.
What I see, I'm going to say something that people are going to absolutely lynch me for here. I think he beats.
Don't do it on this channel, then. Go and do it on another channel.
Sorry.
Don't do it on this channel, then. Go and do it on another channel if it's nonsense. You're already thinking it's nonsense, aren't you?
Yeah, that's because you know what he's just about to say, Carl, don't you? Go on, Matt.
I think he beats Avanesian. I think he's a bit slicker than people give him credit for. I think he's maturing into a decent boxer, but I think he needs that. He absolutely needs that breakout fight to prove it. I'm only going on what I've seen, how he moves in the ring, his punch power. Just my opinion. I'd like to see him. I don't think people are going to be queuing up to fight him. I think I think people will want him to step up against certain opponents. They're going to want paying because they're not going to, there's nothing to gain by fighting him. So how do you move him up the rankings? People won't want to fight him because they've got not too much to gain by beating him. He needs those fights. You've got to. Eddie Hearn's got to do something to bump him up there, to get him up there.
Matt, Joe's just commented in the sidebar, 3 laughing faces. I needed a laugh.
That's fair enough. Enough.
So, about opinions.
So it is about opinions. That's the whole point of this show, lads. So keep them coming. Clearly, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom don't think he can beat David Avanesian because they're making every single excuse under the sun why they shouldn't make that fight. David Avanesian is not a big enough name. David Avanesian is not a ticket seller. Come on, make the fight. If anything, David Avanesian is taking a step back, taking that fight right now when he's in line. He's number 2 with the WBC. He's in line for a final eliminator. He's just waiting for the WBC to make it. It's a dangerous fight for Avanesian because if he comes out of that fight not looking great, what does that do for his world ranking?
As long as he wins, he keeps.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win for Conor Benn. That no one's expecting him to beat Avanesian. So if he goes into the fight and puts a good show and loses, he don't lose his credibility for it.
What does it do for Conor Benn, though, Avanesian, apart from the European title? Avanesian needs Conor Benn.
Well, he takes Avanesian's number 2 spot with the WBC. That's what he does for him.
What's he do fighting the Canadian nicknames escape there? Because he's so well known.
I just think for him, at this stage of his career, a proper test that's not a lot of money, that would show what he is at, what level, rather.
Who would give him a real test? That Canadian, what's his name again? Just remind me, I'll write it down.
Just my mate, Cody.
Cody what?
Surname to be determined, I think. I've forgotten it.
Is that well known, you see?
Crowley.
That's the one, yeah, there we go. I'll underline that.
Okay, then, lads, before we move on, let's have an opinion off you then. Who you think Ben should fight next? I'll start with you, Carl.
I would throw him in. I'd like to see Avanesian, but if they're going to take him stateside, and if it's not Coda, I'd probably go Garcia. Yeah,
Danny Garcia,
who's going to give him a proper bona fide test.
Matt?
I'd like to see Avanesian. I'd like to see it. Yeah, I'd like to see it. Let's get it out there for once and for all. You know what I mean? Like,
Sean, if it's not your mate Cody, who are you going to go for?
Keith Thurman.
Yep, good
shout
chat.
again. I'm along the lines of all of you. My first choice is obviously Avanesian.
What do you think, Cody, as well?
No, apart from no, I'm on about you two. My first choice is Avanesian, and then the Thurman or Garcia are both really, really good fights.
Thurman's a damn good fight because he's durable.
Yeah, and Danny Garcia is a really big puncher, so that again falls into that on your edge of your seat. You know the Danny Garcia fight. If that was made, you know that's just a brawl. You know that's a toe to toe. Neither of them going to take a step back, and whoever lands first wins that fight. But they're both a big step up, without a shadow of a doubt.
Thurman feels too much to me. I'm sat here now, and a Thurman fight feels a little bit too much for Conor Benn. That's me just being honest.
I agree. I agree with you, mate. I think 2 or 3 fights down the line is at Thurman's level. If he takes the step up and wins those fights at them levels, I think Danny Garcia might be the right fight because he's probably just past his peak. He's not washed up. He's not a washed up ex name. He's still a name who gets in, does a real good job against the top welterweights. But
How about Ugas?
Not a bad shout after the loss.
be a good time to get him.
Yeah, and he probably
the timing works.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
Joe's put a comment in the sidebar. Can't see any PBC fighter going on his own, and vice versa. Ortiz Jr. for me.
Ooh.
There's absolutely no way Eddie Hearn goes anywhere near Ortiz Jr. or Boots Ennis. Not a chance. Not for any money in the world is he putting Conor Benn in against them two next fight. 4 or 5 fights down the line, maybe. Not a chance yet, Joe. He won't fight Avanesian, so there's no chance he's fighting Boots Ennis or Ortiz Jr.
No.
Okay. Swiftly moving on then, guys. Just quickly want to touch on...
Andy, sorry, I've had to have a drink tonight after Sean's comments about Cody Crowley. I've had to settle the nerves.
Just quickly, seeing as though we're talking about the welterweight division, let's have a little bit of a chat about Errol Spence and Ugas from last weekend. Carl, let me get your opinions on this first. Has this got rid of the rumours that Spence hasn't got anything left?
I'm torn a little bit here because I did say before the fight that, I thought Ugas was overhyped on the back of a performance against Manny Pacquiao. So I think it does show that Spence has got something left. I was impressed with Errol Spence. I like Errol Spence as a fighter, though. It's world class. There's no two ways about it. Yeah. So, yes, he has got something left. There's the obvious next fight, isn't it, Crawford? He was calling him out as soon as the microphone got put in his face. I thought it was a very good performance. I know other people I've read and people have told me they didn't particularly rate Spencer's performance, but I did. I thought, he got rid of that little bit of ring rust and shown that he's still got it. So I think he's here to not dominate the division, but he's going to be at the higher end of the division. Put it this way, Ben goes nowhere near him for a long time.
Sean, is he a shadow of himself after the car accident and the eye problems, or is he back to his best?
I think certainly he sort of dropped the level to, for example, when he beat Cal Brook. I don't think he's that Errol Spence, but I certainly think he's one of the best in the division. And let's hope we see the Crawford fight sooner rather than later.
Matt, what's your feeling on the fight?
I think it's easy to say that Spencer's dropped a level just because he was wobbled, and he was significantly wobbled as well. So I think people jump to a conclusion there in terms of, around the time he fought Brooks, sort of thing. You know, we wouldn't have been wobbled then, sort of thing. So I think people sort of jump to conclusions just because he got shaken. This is boxing, you know. It's like I say, you can't jump in water without getting wet, and you know, if you're in a fight, you're going to get punched. So I thought it was a decent performance if you consider what he's coming back from. I think the Crawford fight really is the only fight for both of them. Hopefully if they can get it over the line. I think Crawford wins though for me.
So a couple of comments in the sidebar. Gary 2010, evening Gary. Ugas boxed the wrong tactics anyway. You can't stand mid-range against Spence. Valid comment. And then he's also put Crawford beat Spence. He had too much versatility. He can box many different ways. I'm kind of going along the same lines as you, Gary. I think Crawford is going to be way too good for Spence at the minute, and Spence is going to take a lot from that fight, and he's probably going to be a lot more confident in what he's got left, because he must have been doubting himself as well. He's not going to show that publicly, but he's not going to know after everything he's been through whether he can still take the shots, whether he can still his defense is still as good as it used to be, whether he's still got the power. I don't think he's anywhere near the same level he was against Mr. Brownie.
Well,
I just don't think he comes at that level anymore. I don't think he can get anywhere near him. In fact, that fighter was outstanding that night in Sheffield. I mean, me and Carl were there, and we from very mid-range in the fight. Me and Carl was saying, "Jesus, this is only going one way." He looked absolutely outstanding. I just don't think he's got that left, and he needs to be that fighter to beat Crawford.
I think if the fight gets made, it's definitely Crawford at his peak, and Spence, we're not quite sure where he's at.
Yeah,
not at his peak.
Yeah, and if Spencer's not got the same defensive ability that he had back then, I just don't see how he keeps Crawford off. I just don't see how he gets out of the way. Joe's put a comment in the sidebar. I'm edging towards Crawford. His speed might be the difference. It will be a great fight, though. Cole, did you give a comment on who you think wins?
I did. One thing I would say though, you're talking about comparing the Spence that went in with Brook and the Spence of today. He's 32 years old.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little bit unfair, really, to be comparing him against a Brook that stepped in the ring at Bramall Lane.
Yeah, you've got a good point, and Matt said it as well. Considering where he's come from, the car crash he shouldn't have walked away from, and in his eye troubles, he's still at a great level, and he probably still beats every other welterweight in the world currently, other than Spence, maybe. I mean, there's an argument there that he can beat Spence. Crawford. There's an argument he can beat Crawford. I guess we're going to see, because what it's done is it's put Crawford in a position now where Spencer's kind of dangling 3 belts in front of him and going, no. Come and get the belt.
Well, there's some analogy for you, isn't it?
Quality, isn't it?
This show's going south quickly, isn't it? You've got Shaw making outrageous comments about Canadian fighters. Andy's going, no. Jesus Christ. Matt, what we're doing?
But it makes Crawford have to take the fight. Crawford's, goes on about being the best in the division. Well, unfortunately, you've got 1 belt and Spencer's got 3. So
the beauty of it is that Crawford calls his own shots now, don't he? Promotion now. So there's nothing
that fight's more likely to happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a very good chance he's going to get signed by the same promoter, and then the fight definitely happens.
The only hope spanner that I hope doesn't happen with Josh Taylor moving up, and the longer the Crawford situation goes on with the promotional, is they land that mandatory, so we don't see the fight this year. That's what I hope doesn't happen.
That's a possibility, Sean. Yeah, you're
I
right.
think he fights Taylor next, Crawford.
I hope not.
I think that's the way it'll pan
I'd
out.
like to see the division unified, and then let the belts be split again, and let's have, start again and have 4 world champions, and have them fight each other and build it back up again. That's the way boxing should be, in my opinion. Let's find out who the best is right now, and it's got to be Spence Crawford fight. It's got to be. Taylor's moving up from a division where he's just got beat, in my opinion. There's a ghost there that I think he should take that rematch. He's not going to do it at the weight because he can't make it, unfortunately. So he's going to move up. I don't think it'd be crazy for him to jump in with Crawford straight away. I think he needs to be fighting another world level fighter at that weight first, because he's been undisputed at the level below. He's definitely going to get put right up in there at the number 1 spot in a couple of the belt rankings. That's just what happens. But I don't think he should get the fight straight away. I think that's not right. Anyway, anybody else got anything else on that before we move on?
Nope. That'll be a no.
Okay. Over to the big one. Finally, Dillian Whyte has popped his head up out of the pit, showed his face up at the presser, done some videos, and we've now got a fight for certain this weekend. And there's been a few additions to the card, or at least one addition, which makes the card a lot better, in my opinion. I'm not going to go through every single fight on the card because there's a few bum fights on there. But we'll start I think we'll start with Tommy Fury against Daniel Bochinski. Tommy Fury's coming in 7-0. Bochinski's 10-1. This is a light heavyweight fight. Tommy Fury was always going to be on this card for obvious reasons. I'll start with you, Matt. Do you think Tommy Fury takes this sport seriously? Or is he too much of a showbiz, want to kind of be a celebrity fighter rather than a serious pro boxer?
I know you don't like it on this show, but I'll be on the fence on that one. If he's there you go, mate. I've joined the club. For me,
I better have another drink.
For me, if he's serious about boxing, he needs to start showing it. And the only way you do that is by passing the ring and putting on performances. He needs to do that to prove that he is a boxer first, not the other way around. I'm pissed off with listening to him at the press conference today saying, "Yeah, I'll knock Jake Paul out in one round." I don't give a shit about Jake Paul.
No.
Bollocks. Fair play to Jake Paul for what he does. I won't take away anybody's right to get in the ring, and if he can make some money out of it, it pisses people off, but fair play to him. But I don't want to hear about Tommy Fury going, "Yeah, I can do Jake Paul in a round." Guys, I would expect you to do Jake Paul in a round if you are a professional boxer. You know, he needs to be active in the ring, not anywhere else forward, if he's to be taken seriously.
Just picking up a comment on the sidebar, Andy, from Joe. Tommy, question shades of GGG Fury, obviously alluding to the comment that John Fury made, comparing him to a young Triple G. So I just had to acknowledge that because it did make me smile as well.
While you're commenting, Carl, same sort of question to you, really. Do you think he takes it seriously?
I think he thinks he does. I think he's got a lot of luxuries, hasn't he, in terms of who he can train with. You know, Sugar Hill coming over when Tyson's there. I just don't think he's got it. You know, I just don't. He's not overly impressed, has he? Is it in his 7 fights? He's had it like heavyweight tough on the kid. We talk about Conor Benn carrying names, and we talk about Campbell Latin carrying names. Well, that kid's got to carry that name as well. And unfortunately, his brother's world champion at the minute. So he's got a tough gig there. But I think he thinks he takes it seriously. But I think there's more he could do. I can understand why he wants a Jake Paul fight. Why wouldn't you? When you think about the money that he's reportedly going to earn. Does nothing for his career, but I don't think he's sticking around at the sport anyway. I know he's making all the right noises, but I just don't think he's sticking around at the sport. He doesn't need to. He hasn't got that hunger, in my view.
So you think that the reason he's calling the Jake Paul fight out because he knows he makes him millions and then he can just walk away?
I'm not sure he'll walk away. I think he'll try. Like I said, I believe he thinks he's going to make it. But thinking it and doing it are two different things. I don't think he's got the ability to get anywhere near world level. So I think the Jake Paul fight would, like I say, earn him a few quid.
If he loses that fight, he doesn't have to walk away. He won't want to show his face again.
He's got all that pressure on him as well. You know, the Fury family have said to him, you know, if he's get beat to Jake Paul, who knows what the reaction would be.
It's just an absolute farce fight, in my opinion, and I'm absolutely behind Matt in that it's a professional fighter that worth his salt, that wants to achieve something in professional boxing, doesn't even consider taking a fight with a YouTuber, no matter how much money's on the table. I know they're in this for the money. I know they're in this for a payday. I know they're in this to secure the family for the rest of their lives. Where's your will and want to win titles?
I think you'd be surprised if you offered a lot of professionals who are 7-0 that mega money jumping with Jake Paul. I think you'd be surprised how many would take it.
Well, you got that daft lad at cruiserweight that's got a Jake Paul tattoo. I mean, what's that all about?
Edis.
World champion, you know, runs around in a Super Mario outfit looking like an absolute idiot and then gets a tattoo of Jake Paul just to try and get a Jake Paul fight. Are you off your rocker, pal?
I just told you the pull that the guy's got in terms of finances, don't it? If the world champion's doing it at the weight class, you know, he must be paying a lot of money. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, so don't start jumping up and down. I'm just saying he's obviously got a lot of pull. Because Brady's must have earned a few quid in the World Super Series.
No, yeah, that's the problem, Cole. That's the problem. He's a world champion in a really poor division that makes no money. Brady's won't have made anywhere near. He'd have got some money in that boxing Super Series, but nowhere near the level of the money that he'd get if he was heavyweight or if he was fighting a YouTuber with 100 million people watching him drink pop-out shoes. Just an absolute joke.
Like I'm saying, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just trying to explain why they're probably queuing up to jump in with him. I don't know if you want to take that question in sidebar from Joe. I know he's breaking off a little bit.
Question from Joe. Is John Fury liable to both Tyson and Tommy having him in camp? Sorry, a liability having him in camp. Well, if you look at the press conference, it was all nice. They were playing nice. They were having a laugh. All of a sudden, John Fury pops his head up on stage, and it's almost a riot. It's got to be a distraction. You can't say it's not a distraction. I actually like John Fury knows his boxing. He knows a lot about his boxing. I actually like it when he's talking on BT and he's breaking a fight down. When it's not involving one of his sons, I think he knows his stuff. The problem is, as soon as it involves Tyson or Tommy, all of that goes out the window. And King Kong can't beat Tyson Fury. You know, it doesn't help the situation, in my opinion. In my opinion, he should back off, let Tyson do his job, and enjoy what his son's capable of doing from the sidelines. Sean, you answer that question, mate. What do you think? Do you think John Fury's a nightmare in camp, or does he Does he ground Tyson? Does he keep him at the level he needs to be at?
I think he thinks he does. I think he's a liability, yes. All the stuff he comes out with, almost having to roll around with Dean Whyte at the press conference the other day. Funnily enough, that's probably a better fight than any of them on the undercard. John Fury v. Dillian Whyte. But let's not go there with that. But yeah, I think he is. He doesn't really bring anything that Tyson Fury hasn't got already, I don't think. And he may think that a soundbite here and there sells the fight for him or whatever. But no, I just think he acts like an idiot, and that's about it with him, really.
Cole, I know you've got a lot of respect for John, haven't you? You've got a lot of respect for the Fury family as a whole. Where do you?
I just think sometimes John's emotions get the better of him. He's obviously defended like any parent would defend his kids to the hilt, but I didn't like the antics in this press conference. I'm only going off what's been reported.
He's actually come out, hasn't he? He's actually come out after. He's done an interview and said, sometimes my head thinks my body can do things.
Yeah.
So without actually saying, I'm sorry, lads, I shouldn't have done it, he's kind of apologised in a roundabout way.
Yeah, and it did all calm down. There was a little bit of pantomime in there as well, wasn't there? But as a rule, he's just very supportive, isn't he? He just wants to be supporting his kids. But I just think there's a better way of doing it, isn't there? Tyson's big enough, and he's a marketing machine. He can sell himself. He doesn't need sound bites.
So nice little segue here. Jack Gladman in the sidebar is replying to Sean's comment about John Fury and Dean Whyte being better than any of the undercard fights. He's put, I don't know, Echo Esserman against Tilly is a decent fight on the undercard. So that's the next fight we're going to talk about. I completely agree, Jack. This has been added late onto the card. This fight was meant to be next Friday at your call, but it's been pulled forward, I think, to boost the card. There's been a lot of criticism, hasn't there, about the level of fight on the card. So Echo Esserman, 16-0, British and Commonwealth champion, is fighting Darren Tetley, 21-2.
Good fighter.
Yeah, very good fighter. This is a really, really, really good fight. So the two fights Darren Tetley's lost, just to give you a bit of a background and give you an idea of what sort of level he's at. He lost to Samuel Atwi, got KO'd by Samuel Atwi, and he also lost to Liam Taylor on a unanimous decision. Echo Esserman's flying at the minute. Doesn't seem to be putting a foot wrong, in my opinion. Great fighter. And a fight that should have happened with Conor Benn a fight or two ago. That would have truly showed you what level Conor Benn was at. Because Echo's a definite British level fighter, and maybe can go a little bit further. Who knows? So straight to you, Matt. How do you see this fight going? Are you glad that this has been added onto the card? Does it help the bill? Are you more than likely going to watch all the undercard now?
Not just based on that one fight. I mean, I'm going to watch the undercard as a fan. I've seen Essim fight once, maybe, so I can't profess to say I know a shed load about him at all. I think there's two sides to this. I know a lot of people are moaning about the undercard and everything, and fair enough. I don't begrudge the boxers taking their shot on that card. Do you know what I mean? I think I saw there's obviously clips of the undercard press conference. I thought it said a lot that Frank Warren wasn't even at the press conference, and he let his son do it. I don't think that's a great look. There was obviously a fight dropped off the card a couple of days. Yesterday was it? The Irish fella. I can't remember his name. His name's just escaped me. And I think something about that shows where sort of Warren's sort of attentions have been, because I think that it sounds like, from what I've read, that could have been avoided. Something to do with a permit or a visa or something like that for the opponent.
Right.
But yeah, I can't say too much about that fight.
Sean, what's your opinion on this fight? I mean, this could easily now. I mean, I was thinking the Isaac Lowe fight, which we'll talk about in a minute, was going to steal the show. this could very easily be fight of the night.
Yeah, I have to agree with Matt. Really, I've not seen either really to a great extent. But yeah, the card needed it really. The fight that they lost was just silly, really, when you think how long ago they've had for the undercard, and all they needed to do was, I think, fill out a couple of forms for the guy's visa, and because of them not doing that, the fight, which would have been of happening, falling through. And for me, that says all that you need to know about what Frank Warren thinks of the undercard and where his priority lie with the show, really.
Pick a couple
I think that's a bit harsh. Sean, sorry, I think that's a bit harsh because I don't think. Don't tell me Eddie Earn sits down and starts looking through permit paperwork. I'm sure that would have been someone in the office at Queensbury that might have dropped a clanger there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just pick a couple of comments up in the sidebar, Carl, before I come to you and get your opinion on the Esserman fight. Jack Gladman's added, it needed to be added. Yeah, it's not the strongest card, is it? And obviously all the money's going on the main fight. Makes it difficult to bring credible opponents and put credible title shots. In my opinion, let's not forget, guys, this is going to be the biggest attended, not just boxing, sporting event at Wembley in the modern era. And that includes any football match. It includes any European match. It's the biggest attended event. It's also the biggest attended event in Europe in the modern era. And because of the purse bids, it's the biggest paid fight in the modern era in Europe. So that being said, surely this fight needs to have at least one or two other world title fights on this bill. Surely. So just picking a couple more comments up in the sidebar. Gary's made a comment. Gary 2010 made a comment about what we were talking about a little bit ago with John Fury, saying let's not forget, lads. This is the first time in however long he's been able to watch his son fight. Wasn't able to be there for the Wilder fights. He makes a good point, and maybe John Fury's getting a little bit excited because he can finally watch his son live. It must be really frustrating. He couldn't go to America and watch those 3 fights.
Yeah.
But getting back to the comment, I'll drop it on you now, then, Carl. Obviously, Echo Esserman's a local lad. Fights out to Nottingham. Are you glad to see this on the bill?
I think it's a great opportunity for him to get eyeballs on him.
Yeah.
I don't think Queensbury have done a great job in promoting him since his title win. I can only draw parallels with Lee Wood and his journey from British title. Even when he won the British title, I'd argue his profile was bigger than Esserman at the minute, especially locally. And we don't hear nothing about Esserman, let's be honest.
No.
So promotionally wise, he can only do good. He's in a great division. And technically he comes to fight, so it should be a good fight. Do I think he'll be the best fight in the undercard? No, because I know we're going to come on to Isaac Lowe, but I think that'll take the best fight of the night. But it can only be good for Esserman. He deserves it. What fighter wouldn't want to be on this platform?
Yeah, absolutely agree, mate. Couple more comments in the sidebar. A fighter that I've not mentioned, he's probably going to be very on early in the night. Royston Barney-Smith. This is from Gary again. Royston Barney-Smith is an excellent talent. I've watched him since the amateur scene. I completely agree. He's 1-0 at the minute, I believe. And fighting a guy, I believe, that's 0-10. I might have that wrong, but I think that's right. He's another one, mate. For 5 or 6 fights in the professional ranks, it's very difficult to judge. He looks a real great talent from the amateur scene. But that's why I've not covered him in this, because there's not really a lot to say. I'm sure we'll all agree. Great amateur, looks good. Let's see how he progresses. I think we'll leave it at that one.
Yeah.
Joe has put a real big comment in here. I'll get your opinion on this, Carl. The build-up to this show has been terrible. It's time Frank took a back seat and let Francis come in with some fresh ideas. Carl?
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring Sean and Matt in afterwards. I've said it before on the show that I think Frank Warren is slightly behind the times in terms of the way he does promotional work before a show. However, there's an asterisk in this one where Dillian Whyte didn't do him no favours, not turn up at press conferences, etc. So, but I do think Eddie Earn's a bit of a blueprint, isn't there? The guy can push a show. He's all over social media. He stands there doing interview after interview. Although Matt let us down in getting a photo with him in Nottingham, but I won't hold it against you, Matt. He stands there doing interview after interview after interview after interview. He's all over social media. It says a lot whether Warren still thinks he's got the energy or he just doesn't quite trust his sons to progress or keep the business at the level it is. Answer on a postcard, but yeah, Warren could adopt a few more modern practices. Yeah,
has he rested on his laurels, knowing that the fight sold out within minutes of that first press conference? Has he thought to himself, I don't really need to do it now because it's a sellout fight?
No, I wouldn't imagine
about the pay-per-view buys.
No, he's not that naive because although the gate revenue is very important, it's still got to drive them pay-per-view sales. So no, in short, no.
Sean, clearly Frank Warren struggles with the media, struggles with social media. I mean, you know, certain people make comments that he needs prompts when he does interviews. I think
a bit like you with all your paper around the screen that no one.
Right, mate. I was just about to say that. If you let me finish, there's not very many people in the world. There's not very many people in the world that could do what Eddie Earn does and reel off fight after fight after fight. Fights a month in advance and name everybody on the undercard. People can't do that. You can't take that away from Frank Warren. He's been in the game a very, very long time and knows the business inside out. Does he struggle when it comes to social media though? Does he struggle when it comes to posting things, when it comes to working the media out, playing the long game with them? And because other than on BT, have you seen this advertised? This is like I've just said, this breaks every single record for attendance, for fees. Have you seen this advertised anywhere?
Yes.
Yeah, Sky. This week I've been on it quite a lot.
And BT during Premier League and Champions League games, it's been flashing up in the top right-hand corner.
So it's been flashing up in the top right-hand corner.
Saying, no, but during the game, I'm saying, so it would have a lot of eyeballs on it. I thought that was quite a good marketing ploy to put it on whilst the action's on. And it's been running during adverts as well. So I'd argue, really, from that perspective, that awareness-wise, they've done quite well.
Do you remember when Eddie Earn was at Sky and Joshua was fighting at Wembley or fighting at the Principality? The whole week build up to the fight was nothing but Joshua build-ups, face-to-faces, camp, constantly on at least one of the Sky Sports channels, constantly. You couldn't turn the channel on without having something about the fight on.
Well, Sky Sports News is a normal vehicle, isn't it? Where they'll get the fighters in, they'll do interviews, but BT haven't got a 24-hour sports channel, have they?
He's very lucky that Tyson Fury is the marketing man that he is. He's driving the sales on this fight. He's driving the pay-per-view, nothing else. The fact that Dillian Whyte didn't turn up to that first presser is either in or there. He wouldn't have made any difference to the sales.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Say again?
No such thing as bad publicity. No such thing as bad publicity.
No, that's right. And quite clearly, it's all forgiven and forgotten now with a couple of days to the fight, and they're all being nice to each other.
Yeah.
In my opinion, though, guys, considering the the magnitude of the fight and what this means to boxing around the world, but British boxing, really. We haven't had a fight of this level between two British fighters at heavyweight for 20 odd years since Lewis
Bruno.
And Bruno.
Yeah.
And that was in Cardiff in front of what, 20,000 people, was it?
Yeah.
Not 94,000 people.
Mm. That was at 1 o'clock in the morning in Cardiff and all.
Exactly, because we used to be beholden to the American market.
Mm.
Now I don't care what any Americans say, we're the force in boxing nowadays. You know, and this proves it. The fact that we've got this fight here doing this. I'm just really disappointed that your armchair boxing fans, your casuals, they aren't going to care about the undercard anyway. They're all going to be sitting getting tanked up after watching football, and then just turn it on right at the last minute as Tyson's doing his ring walk. But real boxing fans like us and the people that are in our sidebar commenting, we want to sit at 6 o'clock, 6:30, and watch every single fight. Soak up the atmosphere, build ourselves up. It just doesn't smack to me of a card that gets you excited building up to a main event. Okay, just let's am I ranting. Let's move on to Isaac Lowe and Nick Ball. As Cole's rightly said, this could very easily be the fight of the night. Isaac Lowe is coming off a loss. I think was it a 2 fights ago? He got stopped by Luis Lopez.
Last fight.
He was down twice in the fight, once in the first round, once in the second round, and then got stopped in, I think, the 7th. So he's got a little bit to prove here. Nick Ball's coming. This is a 12-round fight by all accounts. And Nick Ball, if you look at his record, he's been in 4s, 6s, and 8-round fights. So, although I think Nick Ball is going to be dangerous early on, I think Isaac drags it long, and Nick might be struggling a bit down the line. How do you see this one, Sean? I saw you were nodding your head just then.
Yeah, I don't particularly rate Isaac Lowe. Every time he's step up, he's lost. I think if he fights Jordan Gill later this year, I think he'll lose to Jordan Gill too. For me, he's just sort of like almost like a fly with Tyson Fury. He just sort of comes attached with him. I think that's why he's got this opportunity. I don't particularly think he deserves to be on this card, especially after his last fight on the MTK show. And, you know, I just think it's just something to fill the card, really, as a good fight it may be.
Cole, I know you think this could steal the show for fight of the night.
Yeah, Nick Ball's out of Liverpool, isn't he? And he's a tough, I was going to swear then, but it must be a lager. He's a tough fighter, so he's coming to win. Isaac Lowe, you know, I agree with Sean to some degree, flatters to deceive. He looks $1 million against the lower echelon of the division. But when he steps up, he gets found wanting. However, his last opponent, you could argue, he's probably the best of that division. He's right up there anyway, so there's no disgrace in losing to him. I just think this will be a toe-to-toe war. You can only see it going to points because I just think the lower divisions often just go to points. So I think this will be a toe-to-toe war. I'm going to go out on a limb a little bit here. I think Nick Ball might take this fight. I think he might take it. Yeah, I'm not sure what Isaac's got left. So Nick Ball looks a bit fresher of the two. So I'm going to go Nick Ball to beat him. I know he's Tyson Fury's cousin by all accounts, so, you know, he won't want to lose on this platform. But I just like the look of this Nick Ball, so I'll go Nick Ball.
Matt?
Nick Ball, I've seen a bit of Isaac Lowe. From what I gather, I just think it's a decent scratch. At least it's a good fight to have on before the main event. I would only say Lowe just because I know a bit more about him and I've seen him a bit more. I can't comment on a Ball too much.
Little comment in the sidebar from Jack Gladman. Nick Ball is a puncher. I believe he wins by KO. He'll have seen a bit of Nick Ball, knowing what Jack does. he'll have seen a bit of Nick Ball, so he'll know his stuff on this.
Yeah, he is heavy-handed by all accounts.
Yeah, I mean, it's one or two things for me. Nick Ball wins early by KO, or
here we go. We're going down the AJ route again. Nick Ball will win between 1 to 12, or Isaac Lowe will win between 1 to 12.
Are you going to let me finish before you jump in?
There's my prediction.
Are you going to let me finish before you jump in?
Well,
So it's one of two ways, in my opinion. I'll start again, seeing as though you're rudely interrupted. It goes one of two ways for me. Either Nick Ball finishes this fight early with him being heavy-handed, or Isaac Lowe drags it late. And in my opinion, as I was just about to say, I think Isaac drags it late and stops Nick Ball late on. How's that for you, Carl? Round 10. 1 minute 35 seconds.
Nice to get a prediction like you for once.
Jesus. Just a couple of comments in the sidebar, because as we're going to be moving on to the Tyson Fury fight in a second, Joe's echoing what you've said, Matt. I agree. Dillian Whyte has done his best to ruin the show. I think it would have helped sell the pay-per-view had Whyte been at the launch. That's again Joe, and we've already had the comment from Jack. So moving on to the Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte card and fight. So Tyson Fury, I don't know if you saw the public workout. Tyson Fury spent the whole public workout in Southpaw. Was that just to show that he can, or is that a tactic you think he's going to use in the fight? I mean, I can't see it myself. When Dillian Whyte's got a fantastic left hook, why would you sit Southpaw? Matt, how do you see Tyson? Because there's loads of ways Tyson Fury can fight. He's telling you he's going to come out and have a toe-to-toe war. Do you think that's right, or do you think he's going to stand and pepper Dillian Whyte for the first half of the fight?
You'd have to go on his last performances, and since he's joined Sugar Hill Steward, that there's every chance he's going to come out on his front foot. I think Whyte's got to be, Whyte's got to be prepared for Fury to switch it, because he's got it in his arsenal, and he's done it. There's times where he has just walked out and ding ding round one, and he comes out as a southpaw. You don't know. It's difficult for me. I can't look beyond Fury. I think he stops Whyte sort of late on. I think he stops him on his feet around about the 10th. I think Fury can box in a multitude of ways. Like you said, he can dance around the ring and jab your head off, or he can, as he's shown in his last few fights, he can walk straight up to you and take your head off. Yeah. Now, if you're Dillian Whyte, how do you take that? You've got both of those styles need balance, and you've got to take his balance away. So for me, if he does turn southpaw or something like that, then the left hook that you mentioned, he's got to try and jump on that when if he does try and switch it. But yeah, for me, I think Fury will get him on the front foot. I don't think it'll be the same as like he did with Wilder, where he was absolutely sort of trying to push Wilder, take centre ring and push Wilder back at all times. I think he will do a little bit more. He'll want to take the centre of the ring. I think you'll just see him move, just step off ever so slightly, make Whyte fall short and counter and things like that. I think it'll be more of a case of like the second time he fought Chisora, where he busts him up, as opposed to, I think it'll be a long, quite a measured process over the rounds.
Sean, I've been really impressed
with. Got there in the end, Matt, didn't we?
Sorry, mate.
Got there in the end.
Sorry,
Sean. I've been really impressed with the way Tyson Fury's handled himself in this press conference, because he showed a lot of respect to Dillian Whyte, and he would have been well within his rights, wouldn't he, to have jumped on Dillian at the press conference and said, you're a bum for not showing up and this, that, and the other. He's made comments in the last couple of months about what he's going to do to Dillian Whyte, but when it comes down to it, he's shown a lot of respect. He knows what Dillian's capable of. Anybody at that weight is capable of landing one punch. It's whether Dillian has the ability to get into range enough to be able to damage Tyson. How do you see the fight playing out?
I think Dillian Whyte wins, actually.
Wow.
I don't know how many people know this, but I've been told by someone in boxing. He's been sparring with July in Portugal, the Olympic champion Southpaw. I think that's the closest he'll ever replicate to Tyson Fury to prepare for him. And I just think he's going to take this chance. I don't think he's going to let it pass him by. And I think, for me, it won't be an upset, but for many people, it will. I just think...
you said it won't be an upset?
In my opinion, I don't think it will be.
Okay. Sorry, Sean.
That's only because how I see the fight going. I mean, from other people, it certainly will be. I don't believe Fury has the boxing ability like he did when he beat Chisora the second time. As in, I don't think he can do that anymore. Box and move for 12 rounds like he used to when he beat Klitschko, for example. I think those days are long gone for him. And now, especially, he's with Sugar Hill Stewart. I think, Dillian Whyte, he isn't as bad a boxer as people make out. Okay, he isn't a outstanding amateur or anything. But I think he's got the fundamentals to give Fury problems. And as we know in heavyweight boxing, one punch can change everything. I can actually see Whyte targeting Fury to the body first and then coming in with that left hook that he's got. And I think he'll stop him. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in the first 6 rounds, really. I think it has to be for Dillian Whyte.
Do you think so what you're saying is Dillian Whyte has to put it on Tyson from round 1?
I think that's the only chance realistically he's got, yes.
Do you think Tyson's really dropped that amount of level that he can't get out of Dillian Whyte's way? Because I don't see anything in Dillian's last fights that tell me he's got the movement to keep up with Tyson.
Or the stamina.
I think that's what we'll be surprised with in this fight. But by all accounts, he's in the shape of his life. Again, you would expect that. But I just think that we all know Tyson can hit the deck and he's susceptible to being put down. I just think Whyte's going to do it. I've just always thought it since it's been announced, to be honest, and my opinion hasn't changed on that.
Here's a question for you, Sean. So Dillian Whyte couldn't knock Tyson Fury out. So why would Whyte?
I think Whyte's a smarter boxer technically than Wilder, actually. I think Wilder only really had the windmills, as people called him. I don't think he had sort of the fundamental boxing to set up the shot, other than, as I say, winging the shots, where I think Dillian Whyte can sort of work his way in more cautiously to land the punch.
So, Sean, props to you there, mate, for giving your opinion and sticking with it. That's what this show's all about. And good on you for not backing down when Cole's just put it on you a little bit there. Cole, Tyson Fury on a number of occasions in the last few weeks has said he's retiring after this fight. It was put on him yesterday on TalkSport, and they kept on at him and on him. He said it must have said it 5 or 6 times, and they kept on at him from different angles. Simon Jordan, you know what he's like. When he gets something in his head, he goes on at the person, don't know. Well, he did it with Tyson Fury yesterday, and Tyson Fury wouldn't back down. He's saying that's it. He's done. He's not interested. He don't care about the Joshua fight. He don't care about the Usyk fight. Them fights should have happened, and they're not happening. So, is there a danger? Playing a bit of devil's advocate here, is there a danger that he's got one foot in retirement and he takes Dillian Whyte too light there?
I would say no, because I think he's far too professional. And if you look at the level of sparring he's had in his camp, David Adelaide and Joe Parker and such like, You can only go on what he's telling you because he's a master of mind games. Look, I wouldn't start second guessing Tyson Fury because I send myself a bit mental. Do I think? I think he's on the wind up about retirement. I honestly do think he's on the wind up about it. I can't see him retiring yet. So I don't think he will retire. I hope Sean gets to the bookies. With not that I'm endorsing gambling, but if I was adamant like he was, I'd be at the bookies tomorrow morning putting that sort of bet on. I'm assuming I'm allowed to give my opinion about the fight, Andy. Am I allowed?
Yeah, I'll let you.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of the fight, I just can't see how Dillian Whyte's going to win. They keep talking about his left hook. Yeah, fair enough. But Tyson Fury's one thing he's got is mobility around the ring, and he's big at the weight. I don't think he's going to come out with the Kronk style this time. I think he's going to revert back to box and move. So I think he's going to get on his toes, and I do think he's still capable of doing it, and I think he'll bust Dillian Whyte up like he did Derek Chisora. I think he'll be I think Dillian Whyte will have his odd bit of joy. I think he could. Do I think Tyson Fury hits a deck in this fight? Possibly. But I know Ricky Hatton's got concerns. He's come out and said Tyson can't keep getting knocked down and getting up with these heavyweight fighters, which I agree with. But I just think he's got a bit too much for Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte's a limited fighter. And I think Fury will just find a way. They'll feel each other out first round, and then I think Tyson Fury will start taking over. He's just damn good boxer, world class. And I think he stops him. I think you said 10, Matt, didn't you? I'm in agreement, 10. I think he'll stop him.
I think
couple of comments in the sidebar. Cedric, good to hear from you, Cedric. Fury's mind is already in retirement. Don't think he's focused on this fight. And Joe's put, we shouldn't sleep on Whyte, but on all known facts, it's a tough ask for him. Getting past Tyson Fury's jab will be a problem. You might be on your own on this one, Sean. But believe me, mate, if you're right, you can come on next week with your party poppers and sing and dance and tell us all how we know nothing about boxing.
Well, by probability, Sean, you've got to be right sooner or later because you had Conlon, didn't you?
Yeah.
I'm of the same opinion as you, Carl. Tyson Fury, I don't think he stands in front of Whyte because Whyte's a durable, tough heavyweight, and he'll stand and trade and not without being scared of getting hit, without being scared of getting knocked down, and that's dangerous. I think you're right. I think Fury comes out, he uses his jab, he stays at distance, and he frustrates Whyte for the first half of the fight until Whyte blows himself out trying to throw the big bombs, because that in my opinion is what he'll try and do. He'll probably try and throw shots from out of range, and Tyson will pick him off. And I think then later on in the fight, that's when you'll see Tyson put the Kronk style in and come a bit more aggressive front foot, landing bigger shots with combinations. And I agree. I think he stops Dillian, but I'm going to go a little bit earlier. I'm going to say round 8. I think that's about it, guys. We're at the 2-hour mark. Thanks to everybody in the sidebar. Comments have been brilliant again. This show's fantastic for people coming on with really good opinions. Please keep it coming. Like, comment, and subscribe for anyone that's watching the show for the first time. We'll be talking next week. We'll be talking Taylor Serrano for the following weekend. And let's not forget, Liam Smith has a little fight on that card as well. What a brilliant fight that's going to be. But once again, we'll talk about that next week. Thanks, Sean, Matt, and obviously Carl. Thanks for being on the show again, guys. Carl, do you want to just take us out?
Yeah, so the likelihood is that we might do a little live after the Tyson Fury fight. So, Sean, if your prediction is right, you might be able to come on with your party poppers a bit quicker than we thought you would be able to. So watch this space on Twitter. We always advertise a live show on Twitter. I'd just like to echo what Andy says. Sean, you've been quality tonight. I don't know what you have had a pint of, but I need one. Matt, cheers, fella. Much appreciated. Everyone in the sidebar, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.